Hey, welcome back to my channel. It is a dreary, rainy day in South Carolina where I'm at. But I thought today I would talk a little bit about the book that I completed this week that I really loved. And also, I got to go to the library book sale just up the road from here for the first time since June. And I think I did, I think I turned out pretty good. Pretty good collection of books, all for I think the most that was priced was like $2. They were either $1 or $2, and then also today I'm wearing my Darth Vader T-shirt because James Earl Jones, the actor who probably in a lot of circles best known for being the voice of Darth Vader, though he also was the voice of the actual Lion King, Mustafa, and then he was also the dad in Coming to America, one of my favorite movies growing up. He passed away, unfortunately, on Monday. He lived to be 93 years old, so, and he's a legend in the acting world, so RIP, James Earl Jones. And now I'm going to move on to the book that I read this week that I finished. I really loved it a lot. And let me preface this by saying that I am a huge fan of music especially that sometimes did not get its proper recognition during the artist's lifetime or during the artist's creative peak. The Velvet Underground is, I would say, the most important band in American rock history. Uh, just my personal opinion. And so it was a lot of fun to read this book, Lou Reed, The King of New York by Will Hermes. We'll say Hermes. Uh, like I said, Velvet Underground, probably my favorite American band, or really not my favorite, but I think they're the most important. Probably my favorite American band would be REM, but the Velvets are very crucial and influential to outsider art, indie rock, and of course, Lou on his own was a very talented solo artist who did a wide variety of albums over the course of his career. I only have four of his solo albums, honestly. I've got Transformer, New York, Songs for Drella, and Coney Island Baby. I think those are the only four I have. But I really love his work. And one of the fun things about reading this book over the course of this past week is that it gave me an excuse, not that I need one, but gave me an excuse to sit down and put on some Velvet Underground while I was reading it. And I think I listened to New York, the album New York, all the way through for the first time in ages. I was actually finishing this book on September 11th. You know, that's what better way to remember that day than to read about the most quintessential New York poet, really, of the 20th century, while the almost 20-minute long song Sister Ray that closes out side two of White Light, White Heat was playing. And, in terms of the Velvet Underground, I think depending on which day of the week or what kind of mood I'm in, I would make an argument for any one of their four albums being the best that they ever did. Uh, Obviously, Velvet Underground, Nico, first one, White Light, White Heat, the self-titled 1969 Velvet Underground album, and then of course Loaded, which is pretty good in itself. I love them all. There's never a dull moment with the Velvet Underground. And there's never a dull moment in this book. I will say, I think the strength of the book is in the portrayal of Lou early on and sort of the confusion he had about his own sexuality, about his uncompromising sort of artistic vision of what he wanted to do in pop music and so on and so forth. It kind of rushes through the latter half of his life, I think, the 90s and into the 2000s. Lou, of course, passing away in 2013 at the age of 71. But, a lot of times with artists from the 60s and 70s, their most interesting stuff was done when they were younger, and a lot of it that comes after is just kind of trading on the reputation that they acquired during their youth. So, I don't necessarily fault Hermes for kind of, I wouldn't say like he rushes through it necessarily. He just kind of, it doesn't get as much attention. And of course, it would probably be a much longer book if he did. Um, but it's very good. I've read two other books primarily about Lou. Transformer by Victor Bachris, which was published during Lou's lifetime. And then Lou Reed, A Life by Anthony DeCurse, which you can't see it from here, but it is on my shelf back there. So, I'm a very big Lou Reed fan, and this was a lot of fun to read, and it so far it's the only book I finished this week. So, but it was worth it. And now, moving on to what some of you came here for, I'm sure, if you wanted to watch this video, which is the books that I bought at the book sale just now today. I have not been able to go to the library book sale since June, I believe. Primarily work. Sometimes I would, well, yeah. I think pretty much every day that I wanted to go, because they have book sales usually on Thursdays, and then the occasional Saturday sale. But 9 times out of 10 over the last few months, it's like work or just didn't have the time to go by, or whatever. And so I was able to go by today. And these are the books that I bought. And of course, I haven't read them yet, so I can't really pass opinions one way or the other. But start out with William Carlos Williams, which this is Pictures from Bruegel and Other Poems. Williams is probably most famous for the Red Wheelbarrow poem, which is very short. Just kind of glancing through it, I don't think. I think most of the poems in here are a little bit longer, and that's cool. I used to be less of a poetry enthusiast than I am now. Like, I would read the poetry sections in like English textbooks for class or whatever, whether they were assigned or not, and be like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. Oh, I don't like that. Or whatever. I kind of got out. I never really considered reading poetry on its own until I came across like the two collected volumes of Seamus Heaney a few years ago and really enjoyed that. Well, 10 years ago, probably at this point. And then last year, the longest book that I read, according to Goodreads, was a collection of African American poetry that spanned everybody from Phyllis Wheatley to Amiri Baraka and some of the more current African American poets who are working today. Excellent book. Excellent. I really enjoyed it a lot. So I've been reading a lot more poetry over the last couple years, and not super familiar with William Carlos. I did read his book length poem Patterson last year. That was, or maybe it was earlier this. No, I think it was last year. That was kind of a trip. That was a weird kind of interesting collection. So, or full length poem. So this is going to be interesting. Whenever I get around to it. Moving on, my next book, my new favorite author of all time, William Faulkner, Intruder in the Dust. I have not started Pylon it yet, so I don't know when I'll get to this one. I might read it before I read Pylon. I don't know. They also had a copy of The Hamlet, which, if you watched my Faulkner video, you know that I had previously read it years ago and meant to continue with the Snopes trilogy. I came this close to buying it, but I was like, let me hold off on that. Let's wait a little bit. The library does have a newer, fancier paperback copy of The Hamlet. But I might go back and get this other copy, if I have time to go to the next book sale, whenever that is. I think the next one I could probably make it to would be about a month from now, uh, the Thursday after my birthday in October. But, we'll see how it goes. The next one, Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. And This is by Annie Dillard, and I read her book, An American Childhood, earlier this year. I think it was last month. Really enjoyed it. And I saw this, and I was like, sure. You know, that's part of the fun of discovering new authors over the years. Is like you read one book and it gets you, and then you come across more works by that author. You're like, yeah, I'm going to give them a try. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of authors that I like, though, that I already previously liked, I mentioned Kurt Vonnegut in my initial video, and here is one of the ones that I haven't read yet, Galapagos. And what's interesting is I keep seeing a copy of this at the Books A Million in Anderson, and I was like on the fence about buying it because earlier this year I read another Vonnegut book that I had previously not read, Bluebeard, and I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. Like I appreciated it, not enough to keep it, but it was all right. So I think every favorite author of yours is allowed to have one or two like crappy books or books that just don't do anything for you. And I'm kind of finding that as I read more Faulkner, I read more Steinbeck, authors that I've read in the past like Jonathan Lethem or Michael Chabon, you know, authors who I get initially interested in their work because of one book or two books, and I read what I personally consider the masterpieces of their body of work, and then you start reading like the stuff that's like, eh, it's all right. It's not great, but so we'll see how that goes. And then finally, uh, I am a huge F. Scott Fitzgerald fan. I've read all of his books. I might do a review sometime or overview at some point, just to real quickly give you an idea. The first two, This Side of Paradise and The Beautiful and Damned, are kind of unintentionally funny to me in a way because I don't nearly have the sympathy that Fitzgerald had for rich people. Gatsby, of course, is assigned reading in high schools. Uh, it's a classic, and that's what this book is about that I'm about to tell you about, but I'm not going to spoil it yet. And then Tender is the Night is really the one that everyone should read after Gatsby because it is the of the five books out there, book length or novels out there, like it's the best one technically, and that's even with the caveat that Gatsby is, the most widely read one. And then The Last Tycoon, had he lived to complete it, I honestly think Fitzgerald would have topped both Tender's Night and Gatsby with it. It feels like it was heading in the direction of being even better than those two books. So I was really excited to see this at the book sale. This is So We Read On, How the Great Gatsby Came to Be and Why It Endures. I'm very much an easy mark when it comes to books, about the creation of certain books and how those books influenced literature, pop culture, American life, etc. Or not just American life, but life in general after they were published. And I'm looking forward to that one. I kind of come across it mentioned online, and so when I saw it today, I was like, must get it. So those are the books that I bought today, and that is the book that I read this week. Um, we'll see how this week goes in terms of reading. Because I also have this thing called work, a jobs, as it turns out. So we'll see how that goes in terms of my reading habits for the week ahead. And I will try and think of another excuse to do a video next Saturday or Sunday. So until then, keep reading.